If you have ever sat down to try to create content and all of a sudden every idea becomes too overwhelming, you might have ADHD. This is not a diagnostic video, but I'm going to talk about my journey of realizing my ADHD showed up in many ways as a 24-year creator and someone who was constantly pivoting, evolving, and outgrowing her niche. And a lot of what you're seeing with the algorithms now, let me first caveat by saying what's nice about having been on social media for almost 25 years is I could see when trends come and go. I I'm more of the type to create trends rather than follow them, but I can recognize when the apps are making major shifts. And here's what's happening in 2025 on all of your favorite platforms. I'm going to mostly probably reference Instagram because I believe that has the most longevity built into the platform. It's the it's the platform that I take the most seriously, and I believe it's your second website. Some could argue it's your first website. When I network with powerful people, when I go to events, people aren't asking for what your website is. They're asking for your Instagram. I think it has a beautiful combination of writing, photography, video, storytelling, a little bit of your bio, a little bit of your network connections. Like at a glimpse, you can kind of get a bird's eye view of what someone does and what they're about, if you are posting intentionally, of course. So the algorithms now are changing to interest-based feeds. And what that means is like people who are nicheless, people who enjoy being multi-passionate, people who are multi-hyphenated, multi-faceted, all the things. If you are dynamic and probably a little ADHD, then this is in our favor. Like we are the ones that will thrive and flourish in the coming years, and as long as this algorithm stays. But it used to be like have the same message, hammer it home. And mind you, I have a lot of respect for people who can talk about the same thing for 10 years and like run the same program for 10 years. That takes a lot of dedication and discipline and consistency and just, yeah, I mean, not many people can constantly innovate on their own thing. So I can respect that. But I knew I was trying to survive in a neurotypical industry as a neurodivergent entrepreneur. And it caused so much friction because every time I was in the big rooms, I would always say, "What's wrong with me?" This was pre-diagnosis. So I was, man, just out here unmedicated, trying to figure out like why am I always so different? And I always felt like, okay, our psychological needs say that it's better to be understood than to stand out on your own. But I kept pushing against that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create my own rules, and come hell or high water, I will find a way to be successful doing it my way. And even when it came with ridicule, even when it came with confusion, even when it came with criticism, I still pushed forward. And I'll give you a quick example because I remember in the travel industry, I did full-time content creation as a travel influencer and travel blogger for 7 years. And that's a long time. And if you can survive as a blogger for more than a year, you good. You got the hustle bone, okay? Blogging is it's much easier now. Well, I don't want to say easier. It's information is much more accessible, but back then, if you had a blog and it was monetized, you weren't, no one was telling you how to actually make money with your blog. And so when I'm out here literally hustling, knocking on doors, I remember, listen, this version of Glow, what I would do to just hug her, pick her up and be like, girl, you did it. So I would take a lot of buses. I worked with a company, I was contracted with a company to travel through 30 countries in Europe through bus. But even beyond that, there was a lot of overnight buses, like Flixbus, for example, Flix bus. And for €7, you could travel from Spain to Belgium. And it might take you 20 hours, and you might have a random person picking their toes near you. But hey, we made it, Glow. We made it. Okay. So what I would do is with my limited internet. So thankfully, my only bill back then was really like my blog domain and my cell phone. And even sometimes my cell phone got cut off. Like T-Mobile was like, listen, you are 3 months late. What, like this is our final warning. And I didn't even realize you can negotiate with, but and I was like, hey, um, can you extend it for 45 more days? Because back then there was like net 60 on payment. So it was a constant hustle. But some of the jobs I was getting paid cash. So nothing was actually going in my account. So I couldn't pay the bill. And I would say, oh, I'm out of the country. I'll be back at this time, knowing good and well I was not returning. But you made it work. And I think there's a level of like you gotta just have beyond audacity, the gall, just to go for it because you never know. And there were no rules. No one was saying, well, this is how you pitch, and this is when you can pitch, and this is who you reach out to. So I'd be on the bus and I'd be like, okay, I'm heading to Belgium. I could probably stretch maybe 7 days. Like maybe I would go to I would maybe have like 20 euros in literally in my pockets and I'm like, okay, I think I can stretch 20 euros over 7 days. And I was doing that because I would pitch hostels. There was also a network called Couchsurfing, and food was kind of optional. It sounds bad. I think, especially when you think back to your 20s, like you are living off of adrenaline and Red Bull. So I didn't really need much. And especially because like the bread is so much healthier in Europe. Bread in US made me bloated, but bread um in Europe I could like yeah, I could live off the bread and the oil. And if I was staying at a hostel, they often had free breakfast included. So what I would do is they would have these like little circular baguettes. I would go there early, make sure, you know, and I would just, each time I would go up to the table, I would like take, 3 baguettes and put it on my plate. And I come back to my table, see if anyone's watching, slide the baguettes, pretend that I ate it, go back and get another serving. So yeah, I could probably get like 10 little bun baguettes, and that would last me. So boom, that's food paid for. And so I could get to the end of the 10 days with still 20 euros. Okay. I was probably spending most on museums. I would try to find free museums and, um, yeah, just free walking tours. But even then, like you want to bring a tip. So I always like tipped a couple euros. But yeah, it was just a hustle. So in the bus and on the way to these countries where I don't know a single soul, I don't know nobody from nobody. I'm rocking up there. Well, so don't know a lick of the language. I'm trying to memorize like 10 of the most basic words. Good morning, good afternoon, hi, yes, please, thank you. And then back then, alcohol, wine. But yeah, I would just look up a bunch of hostels. There's a network called hostelworld.com. And yeah, they just had a bunch of hostels that were listed. And whatever you think of the word hostel, like I promise you, it's probably different than the idea you have. And I have not seen the Hostel movie, so I also don't have that frame of reference of like, this is what hostels have been portrayed as. So hostels never scared me. And there actually was also a boom around 2016 of like luxury hostels. At least that's what they called it, but it was very posh and very boutique. So you could find places that were like 5 euros a night. You could find some hostels that were 30 euros a night. And that would maybe be like a private room or a shared bathroom with just one other person. But I was also used to staying in hostels with like up to 12 girls. And yeah, that would be like 7 euros. And I'm like, this is great. And it was just a great deal. And what was even cheaper, which I was like, I think I did it once and I was like, never again, the mixed dorm hostels because it's college. You got a bunch of horny 20-year-olds. They're all humping in the middle of the night and I'm on the bottom bunk just come on. Y'all ain't done. Please try to sleep. Ooh. So yeah, it was very adventurous. So it's cheaper to stay in the mixed dorms. Hence why it's like a I might as well have been a brothel. I don't know, but lots of stuff that I shall not retell. But I saw a lot of stuff, and I was so green. I feel like I was sheltered from a lot of that growing up a pastor's daughter. I feel like I just was sheltered from a lot of like what people do. And I'm like, what is happening? What portal have I entered? Okay. So, anyways, once I started to be like, okay, I need a little bit more space, and hostels have common rooms. So it was nice to be able to, I don't know, sneak away to the lobby to be able to blog and do as much research as I could. But I still needed to feel like I don't know, because I'm traveling a lot. I'm tired. I'm malnourished. Like I need, I need some space. I need some form of stability and privacy to kind of feel like I'm doing okay. And I have to even think about some of those nights. Like you might be in a season where you can't see the sun. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. It's a moving train. You feel so hopeless and defeated. And I can't tell you how many not just nights, but years where I felt the same way. And the only thing that kept me going is it was almost like this chip on my shoulder where I was so afraid of the carrot that would be dangling over my head for the rest of my life. Because if you have immigrant parents, bless their heart, they made a lot of sacrifices to build the American dream, but so much has changed since they were young adults that the American dream no longer lives in America. The American dream is to be location independent. It's to be kind of nomadic. It's to build your own business. It's to have options. And yeah, my mom just didn't really understand what I was building and if there was longevity in it. And rightfully so, because this was I don't want to say I was pioneering the influencer marketing industry, but I don't know what else to call it. Okay. There was not many of us, let alone Black women. And there was, of course, beauty influencers and different like niches and industries. But in the travel space, I feel like I knocked down a lot of doors for other people. And again, going back to this ambition I could be in the bus and I'll go on Hostel World and I will just research like what are the top, I don't know, 10 hostels in the central area. And I would I created a media kit, not even in Canva because Canva didn't exist, in I don't know, PowerPoint, but I just put together my stats, my blog views. I was using Google Analytics. I had WordPress.org. And so I just had screenshots of the back end, shared a little bit of my stories. And at the time, I would try to stay consistent with my blog. But when you're not being, um, I mean, you're not eating regularly, you don't know, like you're literally fighting for each day. It was very much survival mode for years. So you don't even have, it's hard to be creative when you're financially anxious and struggling. So I was blogging to the best of my ability, trying to make the most of my situation. I even had an article that ironically went viral where I called it 10 Reasons Why Travel is Better When You're Broke. I really tried to gaslight myself into thinking that life was okay. But I always kept just a posture of gratitude because I was like, I'd rather be pinching my pennies in Paris because I do not see myself working in an office and for somebody else. And I also had another article go viral on Huffington Post and other syndications, but it was like, I'll be the hardest worker in the office, but I will be a horrible employee. And I was putting this language out there, not knowing my ADHD is what caused the friction. My ADHD is what questions authority. My ADHD is the reason I will do the hard thing a million times before I take the hard thing with that gives me options and freedom before I take the safe and secure thing that I don't know. There's no inherent joy that comes from safety in my future. Maybe that, did I say that right? I get joy out of recognizing that I am doing. what I'm meant to do, and that God's not wasting his potential. God's not wasting his gifts on me, and that I'm pursuing my potential daily, and that I am driven by the idea that there is so much opportunity out there, and every single day I get to create it. Like that, that's what gets me going. So I can't see myself thriving in an environment where someone is calling the shots. And I will work. Listen, I love to work. That's a crazy thing. People think that 80, well, entrepreneurship, people say, oh, we don't look like we work, especially if you were in the travel industry. But oftentimes, like ADHD, we work a lot hard. Like we will get a month's worth of work done in a 24-hour hyper-focused stretch. Okay. And like not think twice about it. Not think twice about it. We are just so it is very easy for us to work when we are drawn and compelled by the mission and the pursuit. And so I always allowed myself to pivot and navigate and evolve and innovate when I realized I was outgrowing the persona or the online character that I built. And I felt no guilt about it because why not? I want to live a life of 10 lives. And lost my train of thought because ADHD. Okay, take a drink every time I say ADHD. Mm. Okay, so uh yeah, just ultimately I'm not motivated by retirement. Retirement does not excite me because when you're doing what you love, you actually want to do it for as long as you can. You look at people like Beyonce and Taylor Swift. I'm going to reference them so much because they're not pursuing retirement. They're not building their career to set themselves up for retirement. They could have retired 10 years ago, both of them, but they love what they do. They love their art. They love their craft. They love the connection they have with their audience. And I do too. I create for the version of me that was looking for someone like me to say, hey, keep going. Like, you got this. I've been where you've been. I know what it's like. You're going to be okay. I didn't have that voice. I had to become the parent or the adult that I needed since I was a teenager. And I recognized that, man, I don't belong in this world. I'm very different. I had to overcome suicidal ideation in two different chapters of my life because I was so confused by my lack of belonging. I was so frustrated by why I couldn't function like everyone else. What was wrong with me? That was like this constant, and my goodness, your brain will answer the questions that you give it. And there's always like a primary question. I believe Tony Robbins coined that theory that there's a primary question that is always recycling in your head. And if your primary question is negative, you will answer with negativity. But if your primary question is positive, you're going to rise to the occasion and say, oh, yeah, hmm, interesting. And my primary question was negative for most of my life. What is wrong with me? Why don't I belong? Why don't I fit in? Okay. So if any of this is resonating and you might have ADHD, I cannot encourage enough for you to seek out a diagnosis just to get the clarity. And of course, many of you are probably self-diagnosed, and that's fine. But there's something about the certainty of like, oh yeah, your scales are off the chart. How did you survive this long? And there's like a wave of grief, acceptance, and then like a rebirth. And you might have even noticed, well, I don't know, maybe you don't, but I feel so free now. I'm 9 months into my medication. I take about a weekly dose. This isn't even a daily thing. And currently I'm unmedicated. I think yesterday's video, August 2nd, I had a morning medication. But yeah, it just I take it when I feel like I need it, but I don't rely on it. And the best parts of my creativity come when I'm just me. So understand that ADHD, I'm going to keep calling it a superpower. And it's why I created the superpower system last year. Once I realized, like, oh, this has always been how it was supposed to be. Like, and it's incredible. All the women who have gone through the system and they've emailed me just with gratitude of like, finally, like, thank you. It's so nice to see someone who gets it. because we can't take the advice that is popular or the most um, repeated or echoed in the industry, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. Okay, so your first lesson, where was I going with all of that? Pitching, ADHD. Y'all are gonna get the video you're gonna get, okay? No edits. I think just that ability to um, pursue and not wait for permission and to pitch all of these hostels like, hey, I'm coming to your city, and hey, here's my media kit, and hey, here's what I can do for you, and hey, have you considered this, and I'd like to talk to you about Instagram. I felt like I was evangelizing for Instagram back then. Like, no hostels, no hotels were using it. I was like, are y'all kidding me? This is beautiful digital real estate. Like, you get your handle at least. And I was like educating them, talking to the manager of these like hotel chains and hostels. Like, let's talk. Where's your marketing department? Oh, we don't have a social media manager. What's that? Understand that just in the last few years, social media management became a six-figure career. Imagine if that was known to me in college, where I was like, well, I have a Twitter. Back then, Twitter was like my very first, I don't want to say viral, but that's where I grew 1,000 followers first. And up until that point, I was just on Zanga, MySpace, Blogspot, Tumblr. And then I just had a series of 7 different blogs until my travel blog in 2013 is the one that took off. But even in that pursuit of creating all these blogs, I never guilted or shamed myself for outgrowing what it is I was blogging about. If I was really obsessed with basketball, which I was, I created a sports blog and I tracked like all the stats of Kobe. And I was just so like, oh, this is, you know, hyper focused and hyper fixated on basketball for a few years. And basketball actually got me, I was varsity, I'm freshman in California. Then we moved to Arizona. And then basketball got me a full ride scholarship to the university that I ended up going to in Kansas. I was a double collegiate athlete for basketball and tennis. And then in high school, I also played golf and softball, like interchangeably, depending on, you know, what I felt like doing that year. And so 4 different sports, but it was nothing. I was like really in shape and I was really active because I think another thing about having ADHD is that the dopamine hit that you get from just doing something or excelling at something or improving a skill at something, which is why it's so important that, which is why it's so important that skill development becomes a part of your daily practice. You can't just say, oh, I just don't know how to create content glow. I just don't know how to talk on camera. And how many more years are you going to say that and like let life pass you by? Every month that you sit on an idea, you are missing out on revenue and alignment. It is so powerful when you allow yourself to be a beginner because that skill can only improve after day one. So let yourself start with day one. Okay, so lesson number one is that inconsistency in your posting probably is due to emotional friction. And ADHD, a lot of times we struggle with emotional dysregulation where we are overstimulated and sometimes we don't know why. And this is again why it's really important to not just seek a diagnosis, but to learn more about yourself. Because as a teenager, my goodness, I was a wreck. I was so moody and I was so angry, but I couldn't understand why my body would flood with rage. And I believe, like, by the grace of God, I changed. I rededicated my life to God. I got like resaved. You only got to get saved once. But I just had to rely on something else because trying to fit in and feeling like I didn't belong and that constant daily friction at school, it just created such pent-up rage and anger inside my body. And I had to release it. I had to do something. So if you are trying to do something and you keep procrastinating, know that task paralysis is probably a sign of misalignment. You are forcing yourself to do something that you've either outgrown or doesn't make sense. Like, yes, there's healthy friction and healthy tension when you are learning a new skill, But if you have been going to a job or working with a company or doing something that you feel dead inside, it is time for a shift. And yes, it will be scary. Yes, it will be um yes, yes to all of the things. Yes to the risk of failure being at your front door. Open the door anyway. I would stare fear in the face every day for years and say, I don't care if I fail. Like, I had to get to that point because if I fail and go back to my mom and say, you were right, I should have become a doctor. Hey, that woman would have, my goodness, she could have exploded in glitter and rainbows to hear that you were right. Because Nigerians. I told you, Gloria, all along you should have been a doctor or a lawyer. I'm your mother. I know best. I'm just trying to tell you this homeless vagabond. I don't know what you are. I don't know what you do. I tried to tell my friends and wah, 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 wah. You know, we do. Woo! She would not let me sleep. She would not let me live that down. If I went back to her and said I couldn't figure entrepreneurship out, it would be the end. And I would now be indebted to her because now I got to live with her and you know, do the like after a certain age, it's like sometimes you need space from your parents because if you grew up in an immigrant household, a lot of times our parents never see us as full-grown adults. And so they still talk to us like child's children. And it's really condescending and it's really hurtful and it could really cause you to spiral. And yeah, so it was just really important that if I failed, I just got back up. Because what is failure? You could, I don't know, your account could overdraft. Is that failure? Or you're waiting on a $3,000 deposit to hit next week and you'll be fine. Listen, my account overdrafted so many times back in the day. Like it, I used to fear it. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna get the, and I'm like, oh, in 3 days I'll be good. My tolerance for risk and failure was like sky high. It no longer scared me. And you even recognize that oftentimes the overdraft fee, you could call the bank and get that taken right off, baby. Like everything is negotiation in this world. So I just learned to move with more assurance that God's got me. And I stopped trying to do things on my own. And I think it's a powerful thing, if you're a believer, like surrendering your plans to God and actually getting and listening for his feedback. And if I didn't feel good about something, I didn't do it. I don't care if it would have gotten me success quicker. I needed integrity and alignment to be a part of every step of the journey. So, yeah, you can't follow the same rules as neurotypical businesses. And if you are avoiding doing something, there's probably some unprocessed pain that, yeah, I think you should um, address or visit. And a lot of that inner child work, depending on when you watch this, I had on my Instagram page back in maybe April or May, but I did like like a dear glow, dear young glow or something. But it was like letters to my younger self at every age from as early as I can remember, which was age 5. And I was processing so much pain. It was so hard to look back at those. Oh my gosh, Glow, don't cry. You're gonna cry every video. Looking at those photos of myself and literally seeing I was dissociating half the time. I was so felt like this constant out of body experience of like, man, why am I here? I what why don't I belong? This constant feeling of like, man, this is not something messed up because I'm not supposed to be here. And so I felt like I was constantly looking for an exit plan, literally to get out of this world because I just didn't understand. And so I have so much empathy for people who are neurodivergent because our brain is I mean, we are differently abled. You can call it disabled. We're wired different. And it's tough when the world doesn't make room for you to exist. And so you have to fight your way for your voice to be heard. And it's a really vulnerable journey. But yeah, I think following the neurotypical rules will lead to burnout. And it also cause you to kind of resent yourself. So it kind of leads to number two. When you don't know what to post, start with your past, revisit some of your childhood memories. And if you want, I invite you to change like your phone background to a childhood photo of yourself so that every time you pick up your phone, hopefully to create content, you're remembering that you're doing it for her. You're doing it for them. You're doing it for that version of you that never belonged or never knew um, why you were here and you were just constantly seeking your purpose. And then also try to write down as you are looking at that photo, like 10 vivid memories that pop up. And ideally, it's a combination of both happy and sad ones, because I think it's actually the sad ones that bring out the most resonance in your voice if you are trying to find your voice. And if there are moments, for example, where you got laughed at, you probably struggle with confidence now. If there were moments you were overlooked, you probably struggle with visibility and being seen. And yeah, if there's a random quirk that you have been trying to suppress, understand that's probably why people want to follow you. So, like, lean into that. And I feel like I have a lot of quirks. I'm curious, what do you think my quirk is based on? I don't know how many videos you've watched, but uh, yeah, what do you think my quirk is? I'd be interested to see the variety of answers, but I feel like my most dynamic self, I kind of put a mask on, and oftentimes ADHD, take a sip. Often with ADHD, we are masking because we have not we haven't been understood for so long that we've just learned to put on a mask to survive. And that in itself is exhausting because you just want to exist. So yeah. And then lastly, know that your first content is your voice, using your voice. So record a voice note. My favorite pieces of content started as a voice note of me processing my thoughts. Because again, a neurodivergent brain, we we speak in colors, analogies, patterns. Pattern recognition is deep with us, okay? So I love to just like word vomit. And what I do, especially if you have an iPhone, as soon as you record something in a voice memo, you open up the voice memo again, and then in the bottom left, there's a little quotation mark symbol. If you long press that, it will automatically transcribe the entire voice memo, and you can copy that. And if you have your laptop near, this is one thing I love about the Apple system. You could copy the transcription and then open ChatGPT on your laptop and paste it directly to your laptop from your phone. It's amazing. And then from there, you can just say, like, make sense of this. Reflect back to me what I just said. Turn this ramble into content, 5 pieces of content, Use ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner, not someone who does the work for you. If that is currently how you're using ChatGPT, you're underutilizing it. And trust me when I say your audience can read and see when ChatGPT is being used. So try to avoid that. Okay, how do I have a low battery when it's charged? Okay, let me wrap this up. Yeah, and just last but not least, the most creative version of you is the one who has survived. So lean into those survivor stories and recognize that the vulnerability that you lead with is connected to the people that you are meant to help and that you are meant to reach and that actually want to invest in you. Okay. Oh, what a video. This is really therapeutic for me. And I told myself I'm just going to post a long form video on YouTube every day of August and just see what happens. So you're watching me in the middle of that. And if you liked all of what we talked about in this video, then welcome to day one. I basically gave you a preview of the daily simple steps that you can do to get your creativity back and kind of do an internal reset. if you are overwhelmed and you have a million unfinished ideas, like this creative reset is for you. It's only $47. And what's nice about that is if you break down the math, it's just 50 cents a day. So the link is in the description below. And yeah, welcome to the people who have already joined. And I'm excited to see what else you uncover and download from this series and these videos. So thanks for being here. And that's all I got. Okay. Amazing.